gone for a while, and everybody was looking for you. Well, how come Nana just didn't call you? Well, it's because we didn't. I
Didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah, and and you watch old movies. Scary movies like B movies from the '60s and stuff, where they call the cops, and the phone goes, the phone hangs up, and then how come they didn't hit redial? Because it was a rotary phone. You know what I mean? That's just the way.
Yeah. Well, technology has changed, But again, I stress this really strong. My uncle went out bear hunting, right? And he shot a bear. Unfortunately, he almost died doing it because before the bear died, it mauled him to it, almost killed him. And he, to the day he died, he had scars all over his body from, being mauled. So, if anybody is out there and thinks they're going to go shoot a Bigfoot, I don't know if I would want to, because, whatever it is out there, okay, number one, it's doing its own thing, okay? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to go out there on its territory and impose your, onto it, I don't know. The other is, like that TV show, right? Hunting Bigfoot. Big joke, because I talked to you on the phone here recently to one of the ex-cast members of that show. Mm-hmm. And he said the whole show was a farce. I mean, number one, he said right out front, because I was going to have him on my show and he didn't want to be on the show. He just said, look, how could you go out looking for Bigfoot? Seriously, if you're going to go with a crew of up to 13 people. Mm-hmm. And, with lights and noise and go find a Bigfoot. He said it was never going to happen, but it was a good way to make some money. Sure. And in a lot of ways, you have to say love it or hate it. It put Bigfoot on the map. I mean, before then, what did you have? People really weren't talking about it. The last thing that you had to go off was, like old shows with Leonard Nimoy and stuff. Like Dan Aykroyd and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, but the thing about it is like those are like one-offs every once in a while, and they show the Patterson Gimlin film, and then they would trot up Bob Hieronymus, and he'd say I was in the suit, and then the other guy would come on. That's an interesting thing too. I mean, I've met Bob Gimlin, the guy that was with Patterson whenever he filmed it, and but in almost a lot of ways, you'd think that was the worst thing that ever happened to the dude. I mean, I think now
how many people labeled him as a crackpot? A lot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he got he was doing this as a kind of a favor to a friend, taking him down there, and then and he was getting stuff at work, and basically he had to become. I mean, it's only until the recent last few years that people actually want to hear a story, and the guy's a really interesting guy. I mean, he used to race motorcycles with Evel Knievel and the whole thing.
Yeah, but you know what? Science has improved so much. Okay, so when they have actually gone back and analyzed the film, okay, they have come out and pretty much said it wasn't fake. It's just a lot of things, that back when it was made, I mean, you couldn't prove it, and that's the whole problem. And then the guy was accused of faking it if a person fakes it and they knew they fake it and they get called out on it, they know they got caught. But in a situation where somebody ran into something, okay, and they didn't fake it and everybody's accusing them of faking it, that would be a emotional stress on somebody, because once you're labeled as a crackpot, that stays, especially when it in the news media. I mean, that stays with you,
right?
It's just like my friend who just finished his internship and opened up a medical practice, and it costs a lot of money to open up a medical practice, and he was so paranoid about it that he thought it would destroy him, his parents that loaned him money, all the money he took out for loans to get his practice going, and his feeling was he'll never be able to practice medicine again, and that's what he was more scared about. But, I'm going to say this because the time is running out here. You're not, maybe you can accidentally run across a Bigfoot. That's how you're going to run across it. You're not going to, if you go out looking for one, honestly, it's going to be really hard to find one. I don't care what somebody says to me. I don't care. I mean, if you're out looking for it, it's going to be almost impossible to find it because they're going to hear you coming, number one. Number two is, I think, like where we were at, Canadian Rockies, we were 2 miles from an isolated road. It went into a World War II internment camp, okay? It was a canyon area around there with all rock where the mine was. And then on the other side, there was all forest, okay? And there was a creek it ran through there, or a small river it ran through there. We were isolated. How many people were going to be walking out there? Not many, okay? It's so that's what upsets me when I look at somebody. It goes with their little cell phone, right? And says, I'm going out Bigfoot hunting, and they're walking down a path that people walk, a couple hundred people a day walk on. They're not going to find a Bigfoot. I'm sorry. Well, the odds are very slim. How's that?
Oh, you're right. Statistically speaking, that's not going to happen. But, funnily enough, they are finding, these people believe that they are finding something. And so, that's the thing about it. But I completely agree with you. If a Bigfoot, if you see a Bigfoot in the woods or in the mountains or whatever, especially if you're driving a car up there, a little bit about being covert, I would take it.
I know quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, that they're going to hear a car coming from miles away. Also, if you've taken a bath in the last 6 days, they'll probably smell you, even if you've brushed your teeth this morning. I remember somebody telling me, don't brush your teeth for a couple of days before you start doing this other thing. And I said, why? And he said, because I can smell the minty freshness from like 100 feet away,
Well, don't forget though, right? You smell a Bigfoot, right? You said you kind of notice the smell. You don't think maybe we don't smell to them? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, I know, my point is that in a lot of ways, the sensitivity of, we don't really know what Bigfoot is, and so you just imagine, like I have a dog, I have a service dog now because I've got diabetes, and he basically can smell whenever my blood sugar gets too high or too low. You see, and he wakes me up in the middle of the night sometimes. So and that. And so there's no way I could smell that. But so you don't know what you're dealing with as far as the capabilities of something else that's out there. But definitely, if they come out, it seemed like in your case, you genuinely like crept up on it.
Well, we didn't creep up. We were just, to be honest with you, we were taking pictures of what was left of the internment camp. And my friend, said, hey, look over there by the entrance of the chained up, boarded up entrance to the silver mine. And and he said, look over there. Look, he first comment out his mouth, he goes, that's a huge bear. Take a look at it for your telephoto. And I looked, and then I realized that wasn't a bear. Now, a question. Right. We can go over about 10, 15 minutes if you want. Right now, I can do it because I'm not tied into any stations yet. We're not into June. So if you want to talk a little bit longer, we can.
It's up to you. I have no problem keeping on going, talking about whatever. So don't worry about time for me. I've got nothing. I don't have anything on my cards. But the interesting thing about it is like the reaction of the thing that you saw was your friend. Now let me ask you this question: was your friend in the military too with you? Was he Special Forces guy too? Or?
He was not, but I was a little bit more in Special Forces.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go any farther than that.
No, I don't. No. It's one of those things we don't talk about. I understand that. So, I just use that as a generalized term. I mean, I'm not trying to.
I guess I was special. I was special forces. I can say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so it's almost like whenever you are getting up there, it would seem to me that you are so good. Is that, sometimes when you get out in the middle of the woods and you creep around, like I'm a big guy. I'm not thin anymore. I weigh 235 pounds on a good day, and so, but you'd think that I would lumber around out there making all kinds of noise, but sometimes whenever you're in the forest, I can go out there and not make really hardly any noise, especially if it was raining that day. There's a lot of different factors. If you were next to a creek and it was a rushing creek and it was making a lot of noise and stuff like that, you actually had the sort of advantage to get up on it before, and if you were downwind from it, then you actually could have scared it.
Well, that's thinking about it. When I was talking to Ed Romans here, when he was on the show, I started putting things together, which I really never thought about. Number one is we weren't looking for Bigfoot. We were just looking to take pictures of old buildings that was left there from World War II, and we were taking pictures of, like I said, old silver mines, old cemeteries. So we weren't quite going in there, but again, the water going through, it wasn't a creek, but it wasn't a wide river, but there was a river flowing through there, and he was on. It was on the other side of it. So, I mean, by the mine. So, it didn't notice us right away.
Right.
It didn't notice us to, we're looking at it for a second. And, like I said, it took a second to realize when I looked, I realized really fast that was not a bear. I mean, I know what a bear looks like. About the time I realized that wasn't a bear, it noticed us and screamed. Now, I played at the beginning of the show a little Bigfoot screaming or whatever. It was similar to that, but it was, again, because of the, being in a little, what do you call it, with the mine there, the hillside, and, it had more, there, probably an echo and all that with it. Yeah. But it was so intense. That is what scared me more than anything. That's where I was so terrified that, I don't go around bragging about this or telling people. I peed myself. I mean, I took off running and I was that scared. I mean, Yeah. I mean,
you're not the first guy that ever peed himself anyway. I mean, Well,
I was thinking, what am I going to do? Hit him over the head with a camera? Yeah. I mean, I didn't have no protection. I didn't even have bear spray. I had nothing. My friend had nothing either. We had a camera bag with some camera lenses and a camera, and that was it.
Yeah. And is that, by the way, is that Art Bell's sort of Sasquatch scream? Because
it's sort of.
You know where that was recorded? The one that Art Bell used to play all the time?
Well, he told me he took it off the internet, so.
Well, yeah, but it was said to him. It was said to him by a lady from Snohomish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and actually, it was a kind of a funny thing because Linda Moulton Howe, whenever she used to do her stuff, and when you first used to talk about, the Sasquatch coming out of a UFO and stuff, that happened in Snohomish too. So she used to. I mean, this is a long time ago. I mean, this is back whenever the only way to feel normal if you were a little bit off. As far as
listen to Art Bell.
Yeah, I know. I mean, really, realistically, that was it. That was the only way that you could connect to like-minded people for a period of time. And so, truckers and stuff that would listen to Art Bell. I understand that. That's great entertainment if you're trying to stay alive. Trying to stay awake and alive on the freeway. Well, in the middle of the night.
I guess what I have a lot of truckers listen to my replays. I get there isn't a day I don't get 4 or 5 emails from truckers saying they love my show. It keeps them awake at night from falling asleep.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is it's different. It's something that people talk